Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to another card making video. So today we're going to be taking another look at the die cutting essentials. This is issue 69 and this is this really wonderful wreath die. So we're going to create something really quick and simple today using this die, and it's just to show you another way of being able to sort of stretch your dies even further. So what I'm going to do is actually die cut this out of just some regular, this is like funky foam that you can pick up from loads of different craft stores. It's really not that expensive, and we're going to be creating a stamp. So I do think this funky foam is the perfect material to use, like I said, because it's quite inexpensive. So what I'm going to do is just pop this through my die cutting machine, so you can see that I've got my die here, and I've just got this grey funky foam. So I picked up a pack, I believe it was from the range, and it was white, black and grey. I used the white and the black instead of like foam pads on my cards and projects, but I don't really use the grey, so I thought that one would be the perfect one to use to create a stamp. And you can see just how well this has cut out. So again, this is just showing you how you can stretch the products that you get free, and not just what you get free with this magazine, but maybe dies that you get with other magazines, obviously just the regular crafting dies that you purchase, that you are able to turn these into stamps. And because of the type of die that this is, it's going to create a really beautiful kind of silhouette background, because we're going to stamp this just one colour to create our background. But you can see there, I've just really carefully pulled this from the sort of rest of the foam. And now I'm just going to sort of pick out all of those extra little bits of details that obviously would normally come out of our stamp. Then what we're going to do is adhere this onto an acrylic block. Now, you don't want anything that is sort of too permanent, because, well, I'm just using a regular acrylic block that I would use for my other stamps. So all I'm going to use is just a tape runner. So this can really easily come back off this acrylic block, and it doesn't sort of leave any residue. So I'm just really carefully kind of trying to just get a little bit of tape roll over this foam image. I'm not really worried about if it's stuck down too well. I just need sort of a bit of adhesive in some areas, and then I'm just going to pop it onto the acrylic block and just make sure that everything sort of looks as it should, that it's in sort of the right positions. And then that is our stamp all ready to go. Now our stamp's ready to use, we can go ahead and actually create our background with it. So I've got some Ink Me 300 GSM cardstock. Again, this is perfect for stamping and inking onto. So we're going to use this for our background. We're going to take the red brick colour from the Prism watercolour ink pads. This is one of the newer colours to the range. And all we're going to do is literally just ink our stamp up. So I'm going to put a mixed media matte down first, because I want my design to come off the edges. Obviously, using a mixed media matte means then it'll be able to be cleaned up a lot easier, whereas putting it onto one of these like self-healing cotton mats, obviously it just kind of stains it. You can't really wipe it up sort of as well. So using a mixed media matte just for really easy cleanup. So I'm just covering the whole stamp. So I do find that this gives a really fabulous impression. For something just as basic as funky foam, I think it works really, really well. So I'm really just going for quite a random design, but I want to make sure that I get sort of all of the elements from this image onto this background. So obviously it's not sort of that perfect mirror image. There are sort of variations in the design, and I want to make sure that I get that just to make our background just a little bit more interesting. So because I want to show you me creating the whole background, I've just sped this up just a little bit, just so it's not sort of too long. But you can see that I'm rotating the paper, I'm rotating my stamp. After each stamp, I'm inking it back up, but you can see actually just how great this is actually stamping. And again, you're getting that really vibrant red colour that I was looking for. There are lots of other things that you could have done to create this background, make it a little bit more interesting. You could do gradient, you could do almost that second generation stamping, where then the colour fades sort of as you stamp more with it. But I just really wanted this really beautiful kind of a solid background. You could also stamp this in clear embossing ink and then heat emboss over the top of it. That would look really beautiful as well. And again, that would just add a little something special to your background. But you can see there's our panel, and it was so incredibly easy to create. If you wanted to create multiple cards with something like this, the easiest thing I would say maybe to do is to have an A4 sheet of paper, or maybe even an A3. create this pattern across the entire background, and then you could just cut it down. So then you're almost creating your own sort of patterned paper. This would also look really beautiful maybe for wrapping paper, if you've got some thinner paper, or maybe even some sort of brown craft paper on a roll that you could use as wrapping paper. I think that would just look absolutely beautiful. So now let's just finish this card. So I'm going to keep it super basic because I really want it to be about that background. So you can see I have cut a red matte layer just to match our background, and we've also got then our card bank. So this is a 5x7 card. So I'm taking that big stamp. So I used this in my last card that I created using this free gift from this magazine. I just really love the size of it. I know a couple of you wasn't sort of too keen on it, but I think having a really big sentiment, if you haven't got a lot else going on, I think it kind of makes the card a little bit more interesting. But I'm going to do the exact same like I did last time. And I'm going to heat emboss this with some gold embossing powder. So you can see I've put it in my stamping platform, so I'm able to stamp this a couple of times just to make sure I get a really great impression. I have already used my anti-static powder tool on this as well, just so I don't get any embossing powder stuck where I don't want it to. And I'm using that same gold embossing powder as well. Again, if you get any sections where the embossing powder is sticking, just take a paintbrush and just sort of really carefully knock those pieces off. So I'm just heat setting this now, and like I always say, I love watching gold embossing powder melt, because it's just sort of turns from this really dull into something really shiny and beautiful. I just think it looks really great. So we're just going to heat set this. So this is slightly longer than what my card is, and we're going to be cutting this down. But I wanted to do something just a little bit different with this today. I didn't want it to be kind of just too regular. Obviously, there's not tons going on, but we do have that busy background. So all I'm doing is just along the top and the bottom of this piece, I'm literally just ripping it. I am using a cardstock that has the colour running all the way through. It doesn't have a white core. Obviously you could use paper like that, and that would just add something a little bit, again, extra to this, but I'm just using a black cardstock. I think this is a Linda Chapman cardstock, which is got the colour running all the way through. And I'm just ripping that just to give it that really sort of fun, different kind of look to it. So, you know, it's a little bit on the rougher side, but I think with everything else going on, I think it just works really nicely. And again, you know, if you've cut something maybe a bit skew-iff, you're always able to use those kind of things. You just got to think of a different way of, you know, making it work. So there is our sentiment piece, that's finished. So now all we've got to do is pop this onto our card, and we also need to just trim this down slightly. And I just think, again, this just adds something a little bit different to our card, makes it stand out a little differently. You know, if you are looking to kind of sell your cards or whatever, you want to make sure that they stand out against everybody else's. And sometimes just little details like this, just where it's something a little bit different, will help you do that. So I've popped our sentiment onto some foam pads just to help this stand out a little bit more and just to give it a little bit of dimension. And again, you can see I've trimmed down the sides, so this just fits on here perfectly. Now we can go ahead and sort of mat and layer this up and then get the whole thing onto our card. So I'm just using some tape roll just to adhere this down. So again, lots of different choices of adhesive that you can use for your project. This is just a really quick and easy way you know, whilst doing things on camera. And I'm just matte and layering this onto this red cardstock. And I really love just where it's sort of blended in really nicely with that background. I didn't want to add any more sort of black to it, but I think it just really helps sort of emphasize our background really in more of a subtle kind of way. And then we're just going to get this adhered onto our card panel, and then our card is practically finished. The only additional thing that I did just off camera, just to give it something a little extra, is I added some gold gemstones just onto the background, again just to give it that extra little bit of sparkle. But again, you could leave it here. You know, you could add lots more things to your cards. I just wanted to create more of a sort of basic card, just like I said, really showing off that stamp that we have created. So you can see there just some of the gemstones that I have popped on, and that's this card finished. So I really love the way it's come out. I hope this has inspired you to have a go at creating a stamp yourself, and I just think this kind of stamp works really perfectly. Just because you've got enough detail in there, enough variety, and you can really sort of see what each element within this is. So that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you do like this card and this technique, then please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. So thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.